Hello, I'm Paddy Delaney, and welcome to Integrated Infrastructure, a podcast dedicated to bringing you news and views from industry leaders involved in the development, design, construction and management of the many built forms that make up Australia's integrated infrastructure. This is episode 17 of Integrated Infrastructure, and this week I'm talking to one of my favourite people in the building industry, John Basilisco, New South Wales State Manager from ADCO Constructions. This week we focus in on John's career and the incredible experiences he's had along the way. John went from a young bloke from Queanbeyan with an architecture degree to a project manager with Lendlease, moving from Sydney then to Perth and Melbourne to gain the experience he needed to progress his career and reach his goals. He travelled to London with Lendlease and had the opportunity to work with one of his heroes in St Nicholas Grimshaw, and then on to Milan, Verona and Venice via Dundee and Eastbourne. A breakfast with Ray O'Rourke led him to come back to London to work on the incredible and iconic One Hyde Park, to work with another hero of his in Richard Rogers, and with the luxury developers and perfectionists Candy and Candy. John has some great stories, great career advice, and he tells us why now is the time to prepare yourself to advance your career for when the market gets into gear. I hope you enjoy the podcast. Please like, share, comment and subscribe if you do. So without any further ado, here's my conversation with John. John, welcome to Integrated Infrastructure. Thanks ever so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Paddy.
Absolute pleasure. John, I've been trying to get you on the podcast for a while. You've got so many interesting things to say and such a great sort of history about your career and what have you, and I'd love to talk about that today. But before we get into it, give us an idea about who are you and where do you work and what do you do?
Yeah, thanks, Paddy. I'm John Basilisco, State Manager for ADCO Construction in New South Wales. ADCO is a national business, and New South Wales is about 200 people, so we turn over roughly 450 to 500 million a year in New South Wales. It's a growing business, still very much a tier two, but with big ambitions to look at a number of sectors that we work in.
Yeah, fantastic. And John, let's go right to the beginning of your career. Start the conversation there. You started off in architecture, didn't you? How did you start off in architecture and then end up coming into the contracting world?
I did, Paddy. You've done your homework. Yes. Look, Dad was a builder, so I always knew my career would be somewhere in the construction arena. Had a passion. Probably an early age, I realised I had a creative flair, and my brain kind of works a little bit differently, but left side and right side kind of firing all the time. So that creative I wanted to tap into, and hence doing architecture. However, I think very early in my career, I realised I wasn't passionate enough to become an architect. So hats off to all the architects out there. They're fantastic people, but I think one of my earliest, I always had a passion. I wanted to understand a little bit more about construction. So during my early years of being an architect with Lendlease, I could see a lot of these amazing projects going on around me, and I really wanted to be to have a part of that or increase my knowledge initially around improving my architectural skills through detailing. I put my hand up to go to site, and I remember my manager at the time thinking, "Yeah, what are you mad? What are you doing? You've got this beautiful office job and quite a good career, and why do you want to go to site?" I said, "Look, I really want to improve my skills around construction." So I do remember my first kind of encounter with the project manager. I won't mention names in case he's watching, but I remember the construction manager saying, "Look, there's no way I'm going to have an architect on my team, in my construction team." And I still remember that. So I think that was a bit of a baptism of fire. But the project manager at the time, or construction manager at the time, probably didn't realise I spent a year designing that particular building that I wanted to go and work on. So I had an in-depth knowledge of that product, which was Carlton Court, actually, as a shopping centre. Yeah. So very quickly, I built a very good rapport with the project manager, and to this day, we're still really good friends from all those years ago. What that did teach me, though, was the site-based life, but also working with the team was a very fast program. I had to learn new skills. I had to learn about planning and programming, skills that I didn't have as an architect, and working with subcontractors. I remember the project manager loading me up, almost trying to break me with, the particular trades that no one wanted, block work and hardware, and there's some structural steel. There was all these hard packages, difficult at the time, smaller contractors. But I ended up doing pretty well. Well, not just me, but the whole team actually did really well on that job. And then I was kind of identified as having a better skill in the project manager side than I did in the architectural side. And to be honest, that was a turning point for my career where I realised they were probably right. I was probably more aligned to delivery than I was for concept or design. And I always kind of knew that my passion was more in that space. And from that point, I just kept going in a project management capacity, and that led me into many. And that was a sliding doors moment for me, and that took me into the career where I am today. So, and the journey has been great along the way. There's been many opportunities given to me, presented to me, but also I believe in creating your own luck and making things happen as well.
Was that? I know Lendlease now are fantastic, and through their graduate program, as are many other companies. But I know that Lendlease have always been sort of quite ahead of the times in terms of developing people in that corporate structure. Was that normal then for you to be able to bounce around from design into site, or was that something that you sort of pushed for yourself?
Yeah, look, I think someone once described to me Lendlease as being the perfect university. I like to say much. I went back twice, so I've got a double degree, if you can refer to it like that. But the managers and I also started at a very good time. I started Lendlease in the 90s. The late 90s was boom time in Sydney. I'm a boy from Queanbeyan. It's a fantastic place, Queanbeyan. Hello to everyone from Queanbeyan. But I think coming from Queanbeyan, arriving in Australia Square, I thought I'd made it as someone, arriving in the big smoke. And it's an amazing company, Lendlease. But at that particular time, leading up to the Olympics, it was boom time. So I was just amazed at the types of projects. And I think landing at Lendlease, I always had a passion to work on a big project. And I think during my time as an architect with Lendlease, I missed out on a couple of those big projects. So by the time I got through Carlton Court was in 2000, I had missed that boom. So then Sydney and Australia kind of went, it didn't go down, but it kind of plateaued. So then I really wanted to travel and go and see the world and chase the big project. So from Sydney with Lendlease, and Lendlease, going back to your question, very supportive. If you put your hand up and you show initiative, they will let you run. And it's very much if you're good enough, you're old enough. That was always the mantra at Lendlease, and I believe they still believe in that. So went to Perth, WA, and ran a job over there, which is another retail job. Then went to Melbourne to work on Melbourne Central, and then but in between Perth and Melbourne, I'll put my hand up, and I really wanted to go overseas and chase that big job. And that was a passion of mine. Yeah,
John, there's a lot of people nowadays. I mean, one of the complaints from the sort of the older generation in the industry is that people aren't willing to put themselves out. They're not willing to travel and go different places and do different things. What were your decision making? What was your sort of decision making process around going to Perth, going to Melbourne, and getting that different sort of experience at the time?
Look, I've never been one to sit still, and look, I've got a very supportive wife, and she gave up her career and moved and followed me. I think career advice I would give anyone is do it. I haven't met anyone that has travelled overseas and come back and said, geez, I wish I didn't do that.
Yeah.
I don't know about if you've met anyone, Paddy, but that's saying something. And I had my plans were to work on the big projects. Other people have different ambitions. I think as an employer, you do look for those experiences as well. It's very hard sometimes to frame those experiences when you come back. If people haven't been over there and they don't really understand those experiences that you do have, but the people that have travelled and have done it have got, I think, an appreciation of if you're able to pack up, move yourself over there, give up what you've got going on here, and do that. Then I think that's a testimony to your character. Like, we sold everything, my wife and I. We sold our car. I remember lodging in, and you'd appreciate this, Paddy. I remember lodging in a townhouse in Victoria, getting charged $50 a night. And back then, 50 quid was like $150, and it was burning like every night. I could feel the cash going. So I did a deal with this little Indian guy who owned the townhouse. I got him down to 45 quid a night, and I thought, and I told my mates, I got him down. I said, mate, if you manage to get an Indian landlord down to 45 quid, you're doing well. So you'll survive in London. And I remember asking for an advance payment from Lendlease to pay the initial bond on an apartment or a flat in Battersea where we resided, and that was the start of working in London, working on the Battersea Power Station. So,
going back a couple of steps, John, in your early career, did you have any sort of particular mentors that stand out to you? And is there any advice that you've carried with you from those people over your career?
Yeah, look, probably one thing that does resonate, probably in the first couple of months of working for Lendlease. I remember Stuart Hornery distinctly, the late Stuart Hornery, standing up in front of the business, very inspirational, visionary leader, one of the best I've seen. And I do remember him saying, and this is how I'm wired as well, but I remember him standing up in front of the business saying, look, we want good ideas from our people. We don't want you to sit still. We want you to ask the questions why. And I remember him putting the challenge out there to say, if you've got a good idea about anything, please tell your manager. And if you think your manager's not listening, then ring me up. And that straight away told me, right, I know the guy at the top is wanting to do things differently and really cares about innovation. And so much so that what it did, all the managers in the room was like, wow, we're going to have to step it up here because we don't want people ringing up Stuart and say, well, so-and-so's not listening to my idea. And I think that for me, that entrepreneurial culture was an inspiration for me. So I think Stuart was a standout for me. I think I really did know that I landed in the right place at the time. And then along the way, there's been others, both from colleagues, but also other leaders. And I think a couple of managers along the way that have been positive. I think we sometimes forget to be positive. I try and instill a real positive culture wherever I go. It's very easy to be negative, but I remember getting some coaching once, and as a leader, the advice was everything that comes out of your mouth needs to be 80% positive, you know what I mean? And I really do believe that goes a long way. And when the 20% is not so positive, then I think people actually pay more attention to that. Now, am I perfect at that? No. Are other leaders perfect at that? No. Could we be better, especially in these times? This is the time where that leadership quality needs to step up, and people need to talk about the positives, which they're all around us. Unfortunately, sometimes we can just get into the downward spiral. And if you look at the news, like the media, like imagine a TV station, Paddy, that had a quota of at least 50% positive stories.
People wouldn't believe it. They wouldn't believe it.
And there's a lot of positive stories out there.
Yeah, but you're quite right. I mean, this year's been about small wins. It's been about progression and sort of iterative momentum, trying to sort of get to a point where there are positive things. You're quite right. Thanks for sharing those. There's great examples. Your trips overseas, or your decision to go overseas, how did that sort of manifest? How did that happen And where did you go first? I thought you went to Italy first, but was it London first?
Went to London first. So Battersea Power Station was an opportunity that the business at the time, Lendlease, had a potential equity involvement in. So I went and got seconded into a company called Parkview. And I distinctly remember coming around Chelsea Bridge, having seen Battersea Power Station on album with Pink Floyd and all those, but actually seeing it in real life just blew me away. And to date, it's still one of my most favourite buildings in Europe. And then having the opportunity to work on it was amazing. And not only that, working with like childhood heroes, with Sir Nicholas Grimshaw, having studied him at architecture. And actually sitting in the same room with him as being his client was incredible. So awesome. I think that opportunity of doing that and working with a world-class team, and I must say the sophistication in the UK around certain elements like design and technology and innovation just blew my mind. So the first couple of years working with Grimshaw and a company called Bureau Happold, who's a structural engineer, and working on such a large-scale project like that, and being exposed to things like English heritage and all of those was incredible. But it all goes back to me wanting to work on big jobs, but also to experience that European lifestyle, which I never, ever look back and regret. And I think from Battersea, it really taught me how the UK functioned and the traditions and the class system that was still evident. And so coming from Australia, Queanbeyan, and then to Sydney, the one thing that really struck me was the class. There was very much a class system, but the class system kind of worked. It worked in a hierarchical sense, especially in the industry of development and construction. It seemed to work, but there's some very old methods. So you had this kind of juxtaposition of modern and tradition where, you could be dealing with the cutting edge design, and then you'd be talking to someone about square feet from a retail space, and it blows your mind. You go, how can you still be in feet when you're talking about leasing deals? So you had this really opposing forces of old world tradition and really absolutely cutting edge modern thinking. But I love that. I love the creative part of London. I love the dynamic and the social side of London as well. My wife and I hadn't had kids at that stage, and just the friendships we've made over there have been phenomenal. From Battersea, then I could see that wasn't going to happen under that particular developer. It has happened since, which has been fantastic. Then we decided to move on, and I did a couple of jobs. I did a job in Dundee in Scotland and one south, so Eastbourne, so you couldn't get further apart. You couldn't get further apart in the UK. And I remember the English guys saying, oh, mate, Scotland, they won't like us. You go up there and do that one. They'll like you. You're Australian, and I love my time in Scotland.
I know that it gets cold in Canberra, but it gets pretty bloody cold in Dundee as well, doesn't it?
It does, but absolutely beautiful part of the world. And then an opportunity came up for Italy, which is my heritage. And I kind of always thought I'd end up in either Spain or Italy as just wanted to do it, heard a lot about it, and an opportunity came up in Milan for Lendlease as well. And so I put my hand up. I said, yeah, look, ready to go. My wife stayed in London, and I said, look, you've got to wait here until we get settled, or I get settled. Very difficult place to work if you're not Italian. And in our industry at the time, I actually became a development manager then. So as a development manager, working in Italy is quite tough. The political arena and the way deals are done, developments are done. A lot of the ownership structure is a co-op, so a lot of families are part of the company, and getting decisions made I found quite tough. However, in saying that, I had a fantastic remit. I had a job in Milan, a job in Verona, and a job in Venice. So I had the guys in London were going, I won't say what they called me, but over on the microphone, but they said, how did you snag that gig? And often the boys would come over from London, and we'd have a couple of weekends in the apartment. And one of the best weekends was 80s party at my apartment, followed by a trip on 2 speedboats on Lake Como, and followed by Monza. And the guys still talk about that. But anyway, so you got this real social side to Italy. I actually think it was quite tough to do business over there.
Yeah. Are you fluent in Italian? Did your parents pass that down?
I would say conversational Italian, Paddy. Some people would say that's bush Italian. But I do have one story I recall. The job in Verona was actually a Richard Rogers job. And I had to present a scheme in Italian in London in front of Richard Rogers, as well as the Italian client team. And I remember Andreas, who is one of the project managers, standing in the back kind of just smirking. Every time I spoke Italian, he thought it was the funniest thing ever. Anyway, I didn't realise Richard Rogers speaks fluent Italian. So I'm trying to give him this pidgin English-Italian version of events, and he just fluently started talking to me in Italian. I'm going, put me to shame.
Oh, you've met some amazing people. You met some great people there. Yeah. I mean, in terms of the architects there that you're getting involved with in those projects, I mean, they are gods, aren't they, in the industry?
Yeah, mate. I'm very, very, like I said, fortunate, but also you do kind of create your own luck as well, I think, putting yourself out there and chasing the opportunities. So back to that point about, advice I would give is to go for it. Don't hold back and just go for it.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And look, I mean, I don't know how many people know about the Candy Brothers, but I certainly know about them. And I was still in the UK. I mean, they were massive. They were taking off. I think one of them was married to an Australian girl as well, isn't it?
Holly Lance, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
There was sort of so much. They're in the news so much for their opulence and their the level of product that they were delivering and the sort of lifestyle that they were putting out and what have you. But I mean, One Hyde Park was and still is one of the premier residences in the world, isn't it? How did you get to work on that?
So coming back from Italy, so my time was up. My wife had stayed in London, so I said, look, it's time to come home. And home was London at that time. Coming back, some of my previous managers at Lendlease were now working for Lang O'Rourke, and they knew I was on the move. And once again, another sliding door moment for me. Coming back, I had the opportunity to set up my own business with a couple of ex-colleagues from Lendlease. However, I was asked to meet Ray O'Rourke while I was in London, and the story and the saying goes, if you ever have breakfast with Ray O'Rourke, you end up working for him, and so it happened. Once again, an amazing person, industry figure. Ray is what a visionary, and I had a fantastic opportunity to work directly for Ray and the business. So met up with Ray and. Really wanted me to work back at head office in Dartford for a particular role. And I said, well, I'm not really interested in a head office role, but I am very much interested in a site-based role. And I hear One Hyde Park is about to go. And I said that I would love to work on that. And he said, and I remember he said, right answer. The O'Rourkes just love the people who want to be on site. Yeah. And so I ended up starting on that job at the very start during piling. And it soon became evident that this project was a different project, and it was on another level, in another category, in another stratosphere. One of the first things I did, I spent the first few weeks just sitting there reading the contract, and some of the guys on site actually thought I was an auditor. They actually didn't know I was part of the team at that stage. They didn't talk to me. And I was just finding my way through the project, new company, introduced to Lang O'Rourke. And reading the contract, I realised what we're about to get into, the level of detail, what we've signed up to, the level of specification. I actually, at one point, thought this is not deliverable. I hadn't seen a specification or an exacting set of standards as I saw on that project. As I worked through that project, I realised what the candies were about, and no matter what you think of them, or what you hear about them, one thing they did extremely well was they demanded perfection in everything that got done. And I can talk for hours on that job. I was there on that job for close to 4 years. An amazing project, one of the biggest, 2,500 people on a CBD site in London, and everyone had to be indoctrinated into the quality world of candy and candy. A couple of examples I'll give you was around, going into the Aston Martin factory, by way of an example, where, we had, you lift up an access panel and behind, no matter, even though you can't see it, it needs to be perfection. So similar to Aston Martin, you lift the bonnet, everything looks beautiful outside, but also when you lift the bonnet, it looks superb. So that thinking and that mentality of everything you do has to be perfect was ingrained within Candy. So they had a team of people following us and checking, the exacting millimetre of everything. So, I mean, I can talk you through from start to finish some of the pain we had to go through. But they did outwardly say, we will change your business forever. And they did, and they ruined me for life. Now I walk into a room, I walk into any job, and I can just pick whether anything's out of alignment, defects, and it's killed me. So I just speak to my wife. We just did our bathrooms, Paddy, and the poor builder, I'll put him through hell because just that eye for detail now, it's with me for life. And, so much so, I'll give you another classic example, snake eye screws. All of these screws on every single door head had to be absolutely aligned. There was nothing out of alignment. Everything was within I talk about that being a millimetre job. It was a millimetre perfect job. I know people say that can't be done. I can take you to One Hyde Park and I can talk you through a few stories about why that job is a millimetre perfect job.
Well, what did they sell for? What did those apartments sell for?
So back in 2010, they sold progressively. So that was from 2007 to 2000 and just past 2010, 2011. The penthouse sold for £125 million. But that was without fit out. So fit out was another £35 million. So the Emir of Qatar bought that one, and he, as you do, he bought Harrods up the road, which is a little corner shop for him. I think he paid over $1 billion for that. So the wealth was off the charts. So we had a lot of affluent individuals, some sheikhs, some prime ministers. I think the rumour has it Kylie Minogue bought one, Naomi Campbell, but I think they're just rumours. I'm not sure. Nick Candy and Holly have got one of the penthouses, so they were kind enough to let us go back through there when we visited London. It's just an amazing job. And once again, that was Richard Rogers as well. So back with Richard Rogers on the second project. But the quality of the other thing is the arts and crafts and the guilds that still exist in the UK and Europe were fascinating for me to see and to appreciate those generations of craftsmen, joiners, stonemasons, leather workers. Just that blew my mind as well, to be able to have access to all of Europe and the skills and the crafts. There's a combination of a lot of those guilds that we incorporated in One Hyde Park. And the Laing O'Rourke model was fascinating as well, because they had a self-delivery model where they had their own stone factory, their own DFMA. So we did vertical, horizontal modules. We did, preset doors. Things were ahead of the time. And so hats off to Ray and his vision for the business. And during that time set up Steeply, which is one of his big pre-manufacturing companies over there as well. So it was really, really good to see how Europe were really progressive during those times. And don't forget, that was through GFC as well. So that was literally, that project went through GFC, which was also a bit of a bubble, but also interesting to see how that other part of the world existed whilst, it was tough.
Yeah, incredible. What's What are the other sort of you've got the pinpoint precision and that sort of thing that you've clung to you sort of coming back from Europe. What are the other things that you sort of you sort of bring into day-to-day life now that you've picked up along the way from your travels?
Yeah, I think personal lessons are. I found myself in different businesses and different situations, and sometimes being tested, and sometimes trying to be someone that you're not. When you do start in your role, it's probably the worst and most horrible thing for the first few months is you're trying to work out, have you done the right thing? Are you in the right business? What are people thinking of you? And I think one thing that there have been a couple of turning points for me. You have to believe in yourself, and you have to be yourself. The minute you try and be someone else, you can really become unstuck. And you've got to have your confidence in your own ability, and so much so that I think you just have to be prepared to wear the consequences of that. And I don't mean that in a malicious way. I mean that in backing yourself and be prepared to either give it all up or keep going. And there were a couple of times I think in my career where I started to go down a path of trying to be someone that I wasn't, and I could sense that wasn't working for myself and for others, and I just had to kind of slap myself in the face again and go, get back to who you are and do what you love and all my. I think if you don't do that, you don't enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, you roll people up the wrong way, and you don't enjoy yourself. And if you don't enjoy yourself, you're not putting your best effort in. And I found once I did that, I reset things. And I've had to do that probably twice in my career, and most times I've had to do it have worked for me. So one bit of advice is you have to be yourself, but find out what makes you tick. I always like to be busy and active, and I drive my wife crazy because I'm always doing more stuff, more projects. I keep side projects to keep myself sane, but she always drives me nuts.
How do you have side projects with 5 children? Like, what?
Well, they are a bit of a side project. Lots of side projects with them, I should say. Yeah. But I also drive my wife insane with always trying to improve things, and it's always a challenging thing. But definitely the kids keep me busy and keep me young.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you sure about that last bit?
All right. I'm 39, Paddy. I feel like I'm 49.
Only kidding. I'm older than you. I've only got one, and I feel older. That's good. We can't travel at the moment. The borders are closed. People's careers are limited geographically, if not even economically, by what's going on in the world at the moment. But I think we're all hoping for whenever these borders are changed or do come open, everybody's talking about quite a quick return to normality or hopefully growth of some sort. Anyway, if you're a young engineer or a young designer or somebody in the industry right now, who's looking sort of for some excitement in their career or progression, or looking at different things, potentially going overseas, what's the advice that you'd give to them at the moment?
Go to Victoria, mate. They need all the help they can get. But no, look, I would say that borders will open up. The world will find a way to work with this and to solve this problem. That's the beauty of mankind. I think people always find a solution. I think it's a good time to prepare yourself to move, and because I think with every time there's something wrong, there's always an opportunity that opens up. And I would say right here, right now, be ready to move. Get your foot in the door, or outside the door, I should say, or keep the door ajar, but be ready to go, because I think when it ramps up, there's going to be a lot of people wanting. And I would say Australians and New Zealanders have a fantastic work ethic overseas. I was only talking about this the other day, thinking, well, what's the UK going to do without Australians? Like, teachers, construction, so many industries over there that Australians traditionally have done so well because recruitment, yeah. So I think be ready, and you'll know when it's the right time.
Yeah.
But I would not, like I said, back to what I said at the start, I haven't met anyone who has come back and said, I wish I didn't do that. My advice would be go get world experience. It's a fantastic world out there. And I would say get out and do it. You don't realise how small Australia is until you're over there and you do not hear about Australia at all. And that is, there's nothing wrong with that from an Australian perspective, but you just realise how big the world is and how small we are.
Absolutely. If moving overseas is too much for you, for whatever reason you might have, family reasons that you can't go that far, I still see the difference in people who have moved interstate. Because there are different ways of working in Victoria and Perth and New South Wales and Queensland and everywhere else. There are different regulations, different styles of government which dictate the way projects are formulated or come together and what have you. And just that little bit of different experience can give somebody a different outlook on things, can't it?
You're right, Paddy. Look, 3 hours down the road, you're in Canberra, and Canberra's a very different place to work than New South Wales and Sydney. So you're absolutely right. Whether it's WA, South Australia, wherever it is, there's a whole lot of different governance, different. But I think there's also something nice about taking yourself away and testing yourself and starting in a new environment where you don't know anyone. That is, to me, a true test of character as well. Can you, and you can do it, and people think they can't, but you can. But after you have done that and you've managed to achieve a successful career by starting again, I think that's a real testimony to someone's character and willingness to put themselves out there and give it a go.
Absolutely.
And once again, like the overseas example, I haven't met anyone that's done that and said, I wish I didn't spend a year in WA.
For somebody who pores over CVs every single day and talks to clients about what they're looking for, somebody who's put themselves out under pressure, done something different, it's always very, very appealing. And to have picked up different skill sets. We're a short form podcast. We do struggle to keep things contained. I could ask you a million more questions, and I know that you can answer them with fantastic and lengthy answers as well. But you've also got to get on with your day as well. Final question, John. What are you looking forward to at the moment? What are you? What's on the horizon? What are you excited about?
Yeah, look, Pat, I think I'm excited about opportunities that come on the back of COVID. I think it can be all doom and gloom, but I do see huge opportunities here in Australia very soon. I think this is going to happen. I almost sound like Trump now, but I think very soon we are going to see it change quickly. And I think those businesses that have pushed hard through this period and really put some groundwork in. It's easy to say, well, it's all doom and gloom, but the people who have put in the hard work are going to reap the benefits. Staying close with clients is fundamentally important, but ultimately we get judged on delivery. And I just want to ensure, ADCO focuses on delivering a really good product during these times and be ready to move for those opportunities. So I'm excited about the change that's coming. I'm excited about I'm hearing a lot of good news now, people wanting to get off Zoom and wanting to get back to face-to-face. That suits my personality. So I'm looking forward to getting people back together again as well. We just set up and sending invites out now for our subcontractor forum where we're inviting 80 or so people to the office. They've just lifted the restrictions this week on that, on staff conferences, and it sounds like that's going to get further eased. So getting back into that environment where we're meeting and workshopping and solving problems together face to face, I'm looking forward to. I think this Christmas will be a positive one. People are going to get back together, families will get back together, and I think it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. And either side of Christmas, I actually think we're going to be really busy. I don't think we're going to have that same sort of break that we're used to. And I think that actually most people are happy about that. They're sort of like, if they've got some really good quality work that's going to take them into 2021, that's going to be exciting. I know, because I've spoken to you and spoken to Neil, how hard you guys have been going this year in terms of that work-winning space and all the work that you've been doing. So congratulations, and you had a lot of project wins recently. So
thanks, mate.
Fantastic, really good. John, thanks so much. Really appreciate your time. Really good to talk to you and sharing your career and some of those nuggets of advice that you've given, and very much appreciate it. So thank you again.
Thanks, Paddy. Appreciate it, mate. You do a fantastic job, by the way. Some people say don't give up your day job, but you have definitely got a career in podcasting.
Excellent. I mean, I was actually going for breakfast TV, but I'll stick with podcasting. That's fine. Awesome. John, thanks very much. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Paddy. Thank you.
Yes, bye. Integrated Infrastructure is powered by North Search, specialists in executive and technical search across engineering, design, construction, property and energy markets in Australia. If you'd like to find out more about North Search or get involved with this podcast, you can click on the links in the show notes or email me directly at the address on the screen. We hope you enjoyed this episode of Integrated Infrastructure. Please tell your friends and colleagues if you did, and we hope to see you again soon.